Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm Kendall Richardson. Thanks so much once again for joining me as I continue this, oh my goodness, as I continue my recaps and reviews and rambles and rants about WandaVision, the very first thing to come out of the MCU's Phase 4. And this is, I hope this video isn't like an hour long because there is so much to unpack from this. Like there is a lot to unpack. Holy crap. So much happened. It's just nuts. Across the board. Every episode is just getting better and better and better as we go along. It's just, like the closer we get to the enigma, the mystery at the center of this whole thing, and we're pretty damn close. It's just amping up and ramping up every time. Like it's so good. I can't love it enough, honestly. I really can't. It's just brilliant. So here is our 80s episode, like we thought we were gonna get. Very, very cool. So yeah, I mean, it starts with, Wanda and Vision with the twins, and she can't control them, and that's a running theme spread throughout this entire episode, that she cannot control her twins. She tries to use her powers on them, she tries to talk them down, and that's just, normal mum to, adolescent children do not, pay attention or listen very well. I don't like to rebel against their parents. But most importantly, she cannot use her powers on them to make them do whatever she wants. They have minds of their own, and they're kind of aware of what their mum can do, as we see later in the episode. But it's a really nice little intro, except for the whole, Agnes rocks up and she's looking great, of course, in her, 80s gym outfit with the big hair going on. Awesome. Love Catherine Hahn. And, but then something really strange happens when, and you think it's normal, you think you're going with it and it's part of the sitcom. But Vision is like, no, Agnes cannot hold the twins, blah, 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 even though Wanda wants Agnes to help look after them so they can take a break. Because they've had no sleep, apparently, as, new parents tend to not get any sleep. And Agnes, instead of kind of rolling with that, whatever Vision says, she just breaks character and says, do you want me to take it again? Shall we go from the top? Like, yeah, really, really bizarre. Like, this episode really kind of, I don't know, reminded us, I guess, that Agnes is kind of aware, and it makes you realize that, she's aware, and then that, Herb must have been aware when, I covered this a couple of weeks ago when we saw them, talking about who Geraldine was. But this is basically just confirming that Agnes is along for the ride, and she's like a willing participant, maybe? I don't know. I'm still kind of going with the theory of her, I guess, being, either taking advantage of Wanda's pain in her situation and manipulating it to her liking, and, I feel like we're creating the twins just so we can resurrect or bring Mephisto into the picture, and Agnes/Agatha Harkness is responsible for that. That's just kind of what I think, and this kind of gives credence to that theory of that she's up to something, and I'll go into more on that later. But yeah, that was very, very interesting. And then the kids aged up from babies to 5-year-olds, and then Agnes says a line that says, kids, you can't control them no matter how hard you try, which just really reiterates the fact that these kids are, doing their own thing, and Wanda cannot do anything about it. Then we get the intro, which I loved so much, especially because, as everyone should really know, Elizabeth Olsen is, she is the younger sister of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who were famous, very famous for being on Full House back in the late 80s and through to the 90s, and then having a child star empire for many years afterwards, and now they don't really act anymore, and they're kind of fashionistas, I suppose, and both married well and are doing very well for themselves now. But and then, you know, Elizabeth is kind of the only actor left in the family, or at least the only one making waves with her incredible performances. So that must have been a kick, like a real treat for her to kind of recreate these parts of this intro that were directly taken from the Full House intro. You know, there's a lot of shots that are very similar. Scenes are set up similar for the intro. I also got Family Ties vibes from this intro, and that was a show I watched a lot more growing up than Full House. I remember watching Full House as a kid in the 90s, but for some reason Family Ties was something that myself and my brother kind of gravitated more towards, mostly because we love Back to the Future, and, you know, seeing Michael J. Fox in this show was everything, and yeah, and the whole family is just great. But their intro is similar in the fact that there's like a family portrait that's like a family photo, and then they kind of, you know, when they're introducing the cast in the intro, they kind of list them, you know, they do that close up on their face and show their name kind of thing. So that was that, yeah, and it kind of, the whole, like the kitchen and everything, like it just felt very Full House as well as Family Ties to me. So, but I really liked that. I thought it was cool. And then after the intro, we're going to start going back and forth between inside Wanda's world and outside to the S.w.o.r.d. base. And there's, you know, Monica's, you know, basically having everything examined, and everything kind of comes back negative or nothing, which is weird, and they're confused about that. And then, you know, we proceed to go into a briefing where we kind of get a backstory on Wanda Maximoff, just to remind everyone, I suppose. I mean, I don't think we really needed that, to be honest. But this is a scene that basically just really goes to show that acting director Tyler Hayward is a bit of a douchebag. So much for that. I really wanted to think that he was good. Like in the last week's episode, he seemed genuine. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess he's the head of a government organization, and like I said, in the MCU, they're not always, you know, nice. They have hidden secrets and hidden agendas, and I'm guessing that Hayward has a hidden agenda here, especially when it comes to Wanda Maximoff, because this briefing he's just making all these points of calling Wanda a terrorist, bringing up the fact that she doesn't have a nickname, so maybe he's trying to dehumanize her by taking away her given name, Wanda Maximoff, and so maybe this is the setting up of them actually finally calling her Scarlet Witch in the MCU, because no one's called her that yet. Those words have not been spoken. We just know that that's who she is because of comics and, you know, prior history and all that stuff. So that was interesting. And then the one thing that really surprised me, because he specifically said he'd been given authorization to show this footage, which means he'd been sitting on it for at least a week. Why didn't he not? I don't know why he didn't bring this up until now, but basically at this briefing, we get to see footage that was taken 9 days ago, so very recently. So they've only been inside, Wanda's only been doing this for 9 days. She broke into S.w.o.r.d. and stole Vision's corpse. Now, last week we kind of theorized that, you know, when we saw the image of dead Vision, that maybe she was using his corpse to reanimate him, bring him back, or, you know, whether or not she was just, she had conjured him and she'd broken concentration, lost control because of what Monica did, that made her see dead Vision. But it looks like it's definitely Vision's reanimated corpse, which she's put back together using her abilities. Which is another interesting point, because Vision is made of the Mind Stone. You know, we know that. Like, that's important to remember. Does that mean Wanda Maximoff has somehow recreated an Infinity Stone? Like, because he's powered by the Mind Stone. So and they even say, like, Jimmy and Darcy even in this episode say, well, how could she bring Vision back without the Mind Stone? Like, that's not possible, right? So, and then maybe that's why all the CMBR, the relic radiation from the Big Bang is playing into this, because not just with Wanda's powers, but because maybe she's actually found a way to recreate the Mind Stone and bring it back. Like, she can manipulate reality, clearly, we learn in this episode as well, when we find out that, you know, everything that goes in is changed to suit the sitcom setting. It is what it is when it went in, so I thought that was a really nice beat with Monica's outfit that she was wearing when she was ejected was actually her original suit, like her original you know, sword get-up that she was wearing, and included a Kevlar vest, so thereby it's basically bulletproof. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, so that's that, but I'm just really confused as to why Director Hayward was sitting on this footage for over a week, and who authorized it? If he's acting director, who's up top that's authorizing, that needs to give him authorization to show this footage? Like, what's that about? Maybe Nick Fury's involved. I mean, I'm still getting behind the theory that that Nick Fury and the Skrulls at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, that is also S.w.o.r.d. And the fact that we've already had, you know, last week's space stuff hinted at, that's got to be connected. So, but yeah, I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. But it was just very peculiar that he would only just now, I don't know, I don't trust him anymore. I don't trust him. Also, how bloody dark was that? They made a point too of mentioning that not only was Wanda in breach of the Sokovia Accords by breaking in and stealing Vision, but according to acting director Hayward, it was actually against his living will that he had. That basically, and Jimmy Woo says he didn't want to be anybody's weapon. And so that makes sense. So, and now they're concerned that Wanda's using Vision to maybe as a weapon, or because he is a living weapon essentially, that thereby bringing him back makes him a workable, usable weapon again, I suppose. But the other thing I think with that is, because Wanda would know that. Of course Wanda would know that. So maybe she found out, maybe this was the catalyst for her breakdown and her going, right, this is enough. Like, on top of the fact that Vision, you know, she's now back from the snap, from the blip, and living with the fact that Vision is dead. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this was a realization, like she found out that S.w.o.r.d had Vision and was experimenting on him, because clearly you see her walk into this lab, and the bits of him, it was so dark, man, it was so dark. The bits of him are all like spread out, sort of forming what's left of him. Like they've torn him apart, because when he died, he was still in one piece. He just had a hole in his head. Like, that's messed up. Like, that's messed up. Anyway, so maybe, yeah, she realized that S.w.o.r.d had him, and maybe they were trying to figure out how to weaponize him again. So, and she's gone, nope, not having any of that. I'm going to take him when no one can get their hands on him except for me. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking about that. I don't know. That was really, really good stuff, but really dark. Really, really dark. So then we cut back into the sitcom world, and Billy and Tommy are just the most adorable little kids I've ever seen in my life. Their performances are so cute, and then they get this little dog that comes out of nowhere, another thing that Wanda can't control. She doesn't know where the dog came from, doesn't know what its name is, any of that stuff. And it's really interesting and peculiar, because then Vision walks in and then is like, you know, I'm expecting someone to drop by, and then Agnes walks in with a kennel, right? And I'm thinking, okay, she had something to do with the dog being there, because how would she know to, because if she's self-aware, then she knows what she's doing, and unless Wanda made her do it, I don't know, because Wanda probably still has some control over Agnes, I'd imagine, but I don't know. It's all very curious. And then the other interesting thing about Agnes in this episode is the fact that Wanda, like, that also goes along with the fact that she knows what's going on, is because Wanda starts using her magic openly in front of Agnes, which freaks Vision the hell out. Understandably, because he's like, well, no, we're not supposed to show our powers. Like, we need to be, you know, these people don't need to know about this or know about us and who we really are. And Wanda's just like, oh, I'm tired of hiding. You should be too. Blah blah blah. Just show yourself. It's fine. Like, she's becoming really blasé about the whole thing, which is also very interesting. And then, yeah, and then the kids age as well. Also in front of Agnes, might I add. So now the kids are 10. So they've gone from being babies to 5 to 10 years old by the time this episode's done. So I had a feeling we were going to get some speedy aging youngsters. So I'm totally not surprised at that. Cool little thing I wanted to mention is the fact that Darcy has given a name to the anomaly. The Maximoff anomaly, as it was also referred to. She's calling it the Hex, which I think is just perfect because, you know, witches and Scarlet Witch and all that stuff, you're hexing, makes sense. But she calls it that because it's shaped like a hexagon, and everything that's kind of, you know, there's like a hexagonal motif going on inside Westview. So yeah, I love the fact that that's the name she's given it. And then, you know, and then she gets all cute and excited when Monica refers to it as the Hex. I thought that was really sweet. And then this was interesting. They're talking, like, they're just discussing, spitballing what's going on with Wanda and her powers. And Monica mentions the fact that that Wanda could have easily beaten Thanos if, you know, he hadn't called down that blitz, that, you know, when he got Corvus Glaive to rain fire on the battlefield when Wanda had him, right? Back in Endgame, and then Jimmy Woo just cuts in without even thinking about it. Just well, you know, I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel came close, if I'm not mistaken, and Monica just looks, I don't know, dejected, just sad. Unless it's like making like the fact that Carol's not here and she misses her. I'm guessing the fact that Maria's dead. And maybe it's just a combination of the whole thing of, like, maybe she resents Carol for not being around, you know, for coming, saving the day and leaving sort of thing. Like, you know, she misses her and all of that stuff. Like, why aren't you here for me? You know, you're kind of like my auntie. Like, this is, you know, where were you when Maria was dying? You know, all this stuff. So I maybe it's those kind of feelings that she's having that's giving that look, and then she just immediately changes the subject. She's just like, you know, we're not talking about Captain Marvel, we're talking about Wanda Maximoff. So, end of story. And that's when they go and do the testing on the clothing, because that's when they, like Darcy was, you know, surmising that maybe, you know, Wanda was. We're talking about the props and the way that they're maybe able to alter matter. They also touch on the twins for a second, and Monica refers to them as being real, but then I'm still confused as to how they are real and not a hallucination, but I don't know. I'm sure we'll get more answers on the twins. I'm just so confused about them right now. They're the big anomaly inside this anomaly. What else do I have to mention? Oh yeah, so, and then this is when they figure out too that they can send in a drone as long as it was made in the 80s, because, you know, when we tried to send in a drone, when S.W.o.r.D tried to send in a drone earlier, you know, it turned into a toy helicopter, right? So if they're like, okay, well, if we send something that was made in the time the sitcom is currently set, then we can get away with it, because Wanda doesn't need to change it, so it will just be what it is, a drone. So very clever. They send a drone in. And then, you know, Monica tries to communicate with Wanda, but she's having none of it, and her eyes glow red, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That was so cool. And then, you know, another tick in the douchebag box for acting director Hayward. He freaking orders a missile to fire from the drone, and Monica's just like, what the hell? Like, we're not firing on her. She's not a threat. What are we doing? Like, what are you doing? And then we lose picture, and then there's alarm starts going off, and they're talking about a breach in the field, the force field, I suppose. And they're all running outside and just to see what's going on, and then just all weapons are pointed at this one spot, and then Wanda comes out for the first time since the show started. She comes out of the Hex. She's there. In full Scarlet Witch getup, you know, in her outfit, which is cool. Excuse me. And I love this effect as well. The fact that she's come out, her Sokovian accent has come back. So not only is she manipulating, you know, all the sitcom stuff inside, she's made herself this, you know, American housewife in these sitcoms, so she's speaking with an American accent, and so now that she's outside, she's speaking with her normal Sokovian accent. I thought that was a really clever touch, and really glad to see that they haven't lost that bit of continuity, because her accent was pretty strong earlier on, and it kind of waned in Civil War, that's for sure. But yeah, it's nice to see it come back here. You know, subtle but nice. This scene was just so good. I loved it. I'm a sucker for a good villain, so I hope Wanda's the villain of this whole thing, because she's so badass. Elizabeth Olsen is just killing it, left, right, and center. This scene just proves how awesome she is. She can go from being, you know, hunky-dory, happy 80s housewife in a sitcom, to, you know, badass Sokovian, you know, antagonist, just really giving it to these S.w.o.r.d agents. Like, she's telling them where to go, and, you know, she's just like, you don't bother me and I won't bother you. Like, just, you know, leave me alone, let me do my thing, stay out of my home, all this stuff. So she's just telling them to go away, and she's like, this will be your first warning. So next time she's not going to play so nice. That was really cool. What else? Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think I've missed some stuff, but that's okay. I'm jumping around because I'm so excited. I just want to get to the end because that's the best part. Yeah, Wanda specifically says, I have what I want. No one will take it from me. She's talking about Vision, of course. You know, this is the way things are now. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. But before that, I should mention that basically Vision is at work, and there's this scene in the office, and there's internet and email. I didn't realize that was a thing in the 80s, but you know, I was born in the 80s, so I wasn't really around to see it, to see that actually, you know, born in the late 80s. Anyway, yeah, and Vision is, you know, everyone's creepily reading at this email, which is a S.w.o.r.D communique from Darcy regarding the Maximoff anomaly, and this is when Vision, this whole episode's starting to, like, as he was previously, like, he's catching on, like, he knows, he admits later on, he's like, you can't control me like you control everyone else, Wanda. And yeah, it's really cool, like, yeah, it's just really interesting, and then he just decides to shut down the computer using his powers, and then he, you know, zaps Norm, and he snaps out of it, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, the real guy, and he's panicking, he's terrified, he doesn't know what's going on, but I need to point this out, guys, that he specifically says her, you have to stop her, he doesn't say you have to stop Wanda, he says you have to stop her. So whether that means Wanda, whether that means Agnes, who knows? I mean, it's more likely Wanda, as I've been theorizing this whole time, that it's most likely Wanda in control of the whole thing, and I would really like it to be. It could also be Agnes, or it could be both of them, but, you know, maybe Norm only knows of one woman in his head, so who knows? That was really creepy, and that actor too, props off to him, like, my goodness, he handled that break from the sitcom into sheer panic and terror and back to the sitcom, like, so good, just as good as Emma Caulfield did in episode 2, maybe better, because it was just, it was so creepy and so well done. I was really impressed with that. But yeah, after Wanda tells them to, you know, shove off and goes back inside Westview, we cut to our first ad break, our ad for this episode, which is for Lagos paper towels. Another reference to an important moment in Wanda Maximoff's history in her life. Of course, for those who aren't paying attention too closely, Lagos is where Captain America Civil War opens, and the Avengers are down there trying to find Crossbones, because he's stealing this, you know, deadly nerve gas agent thing, you know, chemical weapon, and they're trying to, you know, catch him, and Wanda's there using her powers, and then she accidentally, you know, sends an explosion through this building and kills, like, a couple of hundred people at least, and it's just awful, and you know, kind of is the moment where the Sokovia Accords are triggered. So it's a huge event in her life, and so it's no surprise that we're seeing it pop up here. I also have to mention the slogan, which I really liked. For when you make a mess, you didn't mean to. Yeah, no, she didn't mean to. She really didn't. Yeah, that was, yeah, that was nice. Really nicely done. Yes, what else do we have? There was a scene, I need to mention, there was a scene with also the twins. They came in wondering where their dad was, and Wanda's like, he's at work, and they're like, but it's Saturday, and she's like, no, it's Monday, and they're like, no, this morning it was Saturday, and he's like, oh, he's just very busy, he had to go in. And then the kids are still confused, and she's like, he just needed a distraction to get out and get away and stuff, and blah blah blah. So the kids are onto mum as well as to what the hell's going on. And then they have a conversation, like she has a conversation with them about, you know, brothers and all this stuff, and then one of them asks her if she has a brother, and Wanda says yes, and then she says, but he's very far away from here, you know, kind of, I don't know, what is, like, she doesn't say that he's dead, and I don't know if that's because she's trying to sugarcoat the fact that, you know, Pietro is dead, or maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe referencing what happens at the end of the show, I don't know. Far away from here is definitely accurate. What else do I have in my notes here? Okay, so after the towel ad, this is when we get the twins and Wanda searching the streets for the dog Sparky, and then they find it. It's dead. It ate some poisonous leaves, or leaves that are at least harmful to it. Agnes found it. And that was really sad to see the boys get upset, and then they try to age up again to avoid it, and Wanda's like, no, don't do that, you can't avoid, I know the urge to avoid and run away from these feelings is powerful, but you can't, trust me, I know. And so she gives them this lecture about, you know, things you can't change and what you shouldn't change, and how it's just, yeah, because she's, the twins are like, you can fix the dead, you can bring the dog back, and then Agnes is all surprised genuinely to be like, you can do that, like, what the hell, because they know that clearly the kids know the Vision's actually dead, or at least that's what I think. But yeah, Wanda goes on to say that there are rules in life for the way things are, and that we can't reverse death, and some things are forever. And then the brothers go on to say what Wanda said earlier, that family is forever. And so they're really just driving all these hints home about Pietro this whole time. And then this is where I'm starting to think that he's gonna rock up. That we're gonna see Aaron Taylor-Johnson in full Pietro getup by the time this episode's done, or by the time the series is done. Like there's been so many hints like about Pietro recently, and especially in this episode, that are just really kind of driving home the fact that he's gonna be there. So I'm like, all right, he's gonna show up surely. So that's exciting. And then we get a really tense argument between Wanda and Vision, which was very upsetting to watch, but very powerful. The fact that Vision's like, no, you can't do this. You can't choose for me what, you know, where I get to go, where I get to live. Like, that's not how this relationship works. And he's so angry about it, and he's like, stop lying to me, tell me. But then we're starting to get this side of Wanda that maybe she isn't actually fully in control, which is a big reveal. I mean, yeah, maybe not an entire confirmation, and yeah, maybe she is lying to Vision a little bit, but she doesn't know, you know, she claims she doesn't know what's going on with all the rest of the residents, and the fact that there's no kids, like she doesn't know what that's about. And then when the doorbell rings, when they're mid discussion, you know, she swears black and blue that wasn't her, right? And Vision doesn't believe her, of course. And he can't remember, another thing, he can't remember who the bloody hell he was before Westview for some reason, which I found really interesting. All he knows is Wanda and the sitcom and the twins and all that stuff. He doesn't remember what his life was like before Westview, which is really creepy and unsettling to me as well. And Wanda also specifically says, I don't know how any of this started in the first place, which also gives credence to the theory that maybe Agnes is playing a part in the control of Westview. So I don't know, I'm starting to kind of drift towards maybe it's not just Wanda, but Wanda's definitely, at least Wanda thinks she's in control, or she's starting to lose control, as we've seen throughout this entire episode. From the beginning with the twins, and then through to now with Vision, and then the fact that the door's rung and she didn't make it happen, and all the stuff with Agnes and the dog and everything. Like, she's losing her grip, she's losing her control on Westview, that's for sure. Okay, so now, before I wrap up, here is the big, just excellent, epic moment of this episode that I was not expecting. I mean, no one was expecting this. This is just insane. So basically, Wanda goes to answer the door, and we see her face react to who's at the door, and it's just shocked face, like, oh my god, like, who are you? What the hell's going on? And then, you know, we see back at the S.w.o.r.D base that Darcy's noticed this, and so she's sitting down to watch what the hell's happening, because Wanda looks genuinely shocked. And then Vision's like, who is that? And then we get like a shot of behind the figure at the door, and it's the hair of Pietro, right? It is the fucking hair of Pietro Maximoff, and I was like, oh my god. Yes. I was so happy. I'm like, yes, I was freaking right, and so very pleased with myself. Because they got the hair, like, the back of his head, the hair looked a lot, you know, similar-ish, at least, to Aaron Taylor-Johnson's Pietro from Age of Ultron, right? So I'm like, oh shit. And then, when the reveal happened and the camera came around and showed you front on Pietro Maximoff, I'm not even kidding you. I leapt out of my seat and started jumping up and down and cheering, screaming. I was like, holy shit. Like, I was just floored. Evan Peters, ladies and gentlemen, Evan Peters from the X-Men franchise, rocking up, reprising his role as Quicksilver in WandaVision. Okay, so basically what I'm thinking is that this is how we get our multiverse happening, right? This is how we get Doctor Strange to Multiverse of Madness. This is how we get Spider-Man 3, because we know the cast for Spider-Man 3. There are multiverses colliding, multi-Spider-Men colliding, Spider-Verse is happening, right? And this is also how we get Deadpool 3. Kevin Feige recently confirmed that, obviously, I mean, we know Deadpool 3 was going to happen one way or another, but it's officially all confirmed, and it's not going to change. It's going to be the same Deadpool, and that's, I think, the important thing to take away from this is it's the same Deadpool, so therefore it's maybe this alternate universe kind Deadpool coming into the MCU, so maybe there's going to be a blending of the verses, similar to what happened in, not to blaspheme on a Marvel episode, but DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW. By the time that was done, all of the Earths had merged into one, basically, because there was only one Earth left. So maybe something like that's going to happen, I don't know, but basically this is the beginning of the multiverse being explored in the MCU, and I'm so happy about it. How bloody cool is that? And then Wanda knew who it was. Like, I guess maybe judging by the hair and what he was wearing, that she knew it was Pietro. Maybe she had a gut feeling, even though it's not the same Pietro exactly, that she just knew. And so they embraced, and Evan Peters is just amazing. So I'm so happy he's in this. Holy crap. And he made a joke about Vision and said, who's the popsicle, which I thought was funny. And then we cut to credits, and that's it. And I'm just like, holy crap. Just holy crap. I can't even. This is just too good. Yeah. It's just brilliant. I can't even, I'm just gonna keep saying yeah over and over again because I don't have anything else. I'm speechless. It's just brilliant. That was such a great episode. WandaVision, episode 5, on a very special episode was the title. I forgot to mention at the top. Yeah, things are afoot even more so every single week. Like I said, we're getting closer and closer and closer to getting, reveals and getting all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my god, if Evan Peters is in this, literally anybody's gonna rock up. Literally anyone at any time. Like I'm banking Cumberbatch is showing up in the last episode. I swear to God, I'm calling it now. He's gonna show up, and that's how we get our connection to Multiverse of Madness. Like, it's gotta happen. Surely, if they can get oh man. I mean, yeah, I know Evan Peters is not on the level of Benedict Cumberbatch in terms of, A-list whatever, but the fact that it's someone from bloody Fox, and the fact that they're able to keep it a secret, like, that's cool. Like, this, God, yeah, I know that the Disney acquiring Fox comes with a lot of caveats and is not an entirely wonderful thing for a lot of people, but goddamn, the fact that we're getting some actual good content out of it so far, and this is what they're doing, they're making a multiverse. Like, are we even gonna get MCU X-Men? Are they gonna keep the same cast? Is that what this means? Like, going forward, are there gonna be more X-Men movies produced by Kevin Feige but featuring the same cast? Like, who knows? I don't want that, to be honest. I want a whole new cast, and like they've said, they're not going to do X-Men for years, so, but this opens the window of opportunity, basically, for any Fox players to come back. Hell, Chris Evans could come back into the MCU and be Johnny Storm again. It could happen. It could totally happen. The possibilities are endless, and I am so excited. This is just brilliant. So those are my thoughts on episode 5 of WandaVision, on a very special episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode and watching me ramble and rant about how much I freaking love this show because it's so good. And if you've been watching so far, appreciate you watching so much. Stay tuned for more. I'll be back next week with my thoughts on episode 6. We are now past the halfway mark. We've only got 4 episodes left to go, guys, so stay tuned for more. We're in the second half of the season. Things are afoot, and we should all be very excited, because I know I am. Holy crap. Anyway, I've been Kendall Richardson. Thank you so much for watching, and you just experienced non-scripted ramblings.